Emotionally Healthy Spirituality Day by Day, it's an introduction to a revolutionary spiritual discipline called the daily office. The daily office differs from what we label today as quiet time or devotions, in that quiet time normally takes place once a day in the morning, and the emphasis is getting filled up for God for the day or interceding for those around us. But the daily office normally takes place at least twice a day, and is not so much a turning to God to get something, it's more about being with God, about communion with Him. So the goal of the daily office, as with a quiet time, is to pay attention to God so that when I'm active, I'm aware of His presence. It's so easy to live most of our waking hours without any awareness of God's presence. But the basic premise of the daily office is simple. I need to stop intentionally to be with God more than one time a day so that the practice of the presence of God becomes a real possibility. I know it does for me. The great power in setting apart small units of time in the morning, midday, or evening prayer infuses into the rest of my day a deep sense of the sacred, of God. And of all of time is God, but the daily office practiced consistently actually eliminates the division of sacred and secular in our lives. One of the great dilemmas for many in spending time with God is a lack of structure. So I've written this book as to serve you in your time with Him. Remember, God has built each of us differently. What works for one person will not necessarily work for another. But like any powerful tool or discipline, this can easily become a new legalism. So for this reason, I have 2 daily offices per day, one to be done morning or midday and the other midday or evening. And you may, for example, do one in the morning and the other at midday, or may do one at midday and the other in the evening before you go to bed. You choose the length of time for your offices. The key, remember, is regular remembering of God, not the length. Your pausing to be with God can last anywhere from 2 minutes to 20 minutes, or even to 45 minutes. That's up to you. But the following are the elements of each office. 1, it's stillness, centering, and silence. We stop our activity, and we pause to be with a living God. Scripture commands us, be still before the Lord, and wait patiently for Him, Psalm 37:7. And be still and know that I'm God. We move into God's presence and we rest there. That alone is no small feat. There are times when I pause for my midday prayer and find that I spend the entire time that I have available, whether it's 5 minutes or 20 minutes, centering in silence so I can let go of my tensions and distractions and begin to rest in the love of God. Each office begins and ends with 2 minutes of silence. All the world religions practice silence, but what makes silence for us unique is that we are silent before the Lord Himself. This will be difficult, especially at first, because our internal and external worlds are filled with noise and distractions. And for this reason, silence is probably the most challenging and least experienced discipline among Christians today. So give yourself a lot of grace here. Now, the second element of each office is Scripture. Now, the important thing to remember here is less is more. Read them slowly, perhaps aloud if possible, chewing on different words or phrases. And if God leads you to stop on a verse, do so. Be attentive to your heart and to what God's doing inside of you. There's no need to finish all that's provided for each office. Remember, we go through seasons. Let God be your guide. Now, the third element is the devotional reading. The purpose of these readings is to stretch you in your journey. I've attempted to integrate riches from a wide variety of sources and connect them to the Scripture readings. They're meant to be read also slowly and prayerfully. And there are times I come to the midday or evening office with so much on my mind that I will begin with the devotional reading so that I can stop and center and have a little bit of silence. But there are times that these devotions speak so powerfully to where you are that God may lead you to ponder or meditate on a particular sentence or paragraph. At other times, you may want to skip them altogether. Again, remember, the purpose of the daily office is to commune with God, not to get through the written material. The fourth element of each office is a question to consider. Each devotion ends with a question, and I've attempted to keep these questions open and short. So don't be surprised that if you go through this 8-week cycle a second time, and God leads you through these questions into very different paths and answers for yourself. And the fifth element is prayer. For most of my Christian life, I've been anti-written prayers. But in recent years, I have found that they can be a rich supplement to my devotional life. So you may find that you want to use the words written, or perhaps take only the idea or the direction of the written prayer and then just pray your own words. Again, use them only if they're helpful. So while people simply buy and use the EHS day by day alone and separate, it was really written as part of the EHS course. The theme of each week, there's 8 weeks, accompanies the themes of the EHS course workbook and the EHS book, Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. So enjoy these riches of the 40-day experience with the Daily Office in this Emotionally Healthy Spirituality day by day. And I trust that you will find, as I have, that you are remembering and thinking of God much more throughout your days in ways that you never imagined or did before.